You are Locked On Clippers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome to the Locked On Clippers Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. I am Pete Fox, covering sports in LA dating back to 2007. Sorry I missed you last night. Had a family situation, minor emergency. Mom ended up in the ER, so I apologize that I was unable to break down a rather ugly loss to the Pacers. So I'm here tonight to break down a rather ugly loss to the Pistons. Not a lot to feel good about in this one, to be proud of, to hang your hat on. Tonight's episode of the Locked On Clippers Postcast brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Yeah, it's a whole lot easier to run through this game and say, here's the things that were a problem. So we'll start there. This team's going in the wrong direction. Doesn't help that they started without Kawhi, Norm Powell, and Ben Simmons. We'll get into what's going on with those guys and how big of an issue it is. Of course, two of those three guys have a fairly decent history of injuries, so it could be worse than it appears for sure. Just went final. Pistons win it 106-97 in D-Town there at Little Caesars, snapping a Clippers 10-game winning streak against Detroit. One of the things tonight that was just awful jumps off the page to me. Free throws, 12 of 19, 63%. You make 5 of those, different ball game. Probably still lose, but a different ball game. 3-point shooting, atrocious, 26%, 11 of 41. The guys who were off tonight just didn't care. I'm just going to keep shooting. James Harden, 3 of 11. Another huge problem for the Clippers tonight. Bogdanovich was a total and utter liability. 1 of 12. We say that again. 1 3-pointer on 12 shots. Stop shooting. You know, if he made the one after the only one he made, okay, fine. That one was like, at that point, he was 0 for 9, I want to say. So it wasn't early. It was late. And I was like, if he can get going and make 3 or 4 here in the end, they have a shot. But he couldn't. And just one of the things about his game tonight, he just seemed lethargic, just not pushing, slowing the game down, and it was just not good. There was not much from him that you can go, yeah, I like that. He did have 13 somehow. How did he get 13 points? Made a few shots, but didn't make any. 1-3. You look up and down the defense, it was okay at times. I mean, that was one of the things that I didn't feel was terrible, but they could not get on an extended run. They had some runs, and I put that in the notes. They had a few nice runs. 7-0 run in the first, a 10-2 run in the third. There was a few of them. But again, this is something that kind of lingers for the Clippers on a regular basis. And I always come back to, I don't know how you fix this other than you make them run laps or gassers or something. But their inability to finish a quarter is unacceptable. It is awful. 10-0 run by the Pistons at the end of the first. 5-0 run at the end of the second. 8-0 run at the end of the third. And I don't know what it was at the end of the game. It was a level quarter, so it probably wasn't too bad. But the game was over in the last 4 minutes. It wasn't really close. I think the Clippers got it to about 7 down. They got it to 4 at one point in the fourth. But then nothing after that. It was just a very choppy, ugly game. Detroit had plenty of open threes. We need to give some credit where credit is due. Cade Cunningham is the real deal. As I look at the Clippers, and I go, what's wrong with the Clippers? What do the Clippers need? Not just today, like kind of in general, taking a step back and a broader view of this team. Again, not what we do here all the time on the postcast, but they're not doing well right now. Things are not going in the right direction for them. They're plummeting down the standings. Kawhi's hurt with a foot. Quite possible we don't see him again for the rest of the season. Kawhi is not the guy that's like, I'm going to play through it. No. I mean, when did he have since when does he have a foot injury? Well, where'd that come from? Didn't play last night either in that loss to the Pacers. Norm Powell is out with tendinopathy, which is less aggressive than tendinitis. And something's going on with Ben Simmons' knee. I don't exactly know what. But, they made these acquisitions and they're trying to figure out who they are, get into a rhythm, and they can't do it. The two of their best players are out, as they're trying to find rhythm here down the stretch of the regular season, find some momentum. So I look at the Clippers and I go, what do they need? They need a Cade Cunningham. That's what they need. And unfortunately, those guys aren't available. The way you get a Cade Cunningham is you go through what Detroit has gone through for the last 5 years. Garbage, awful, worst team in the NBA kind of a thing. I look at the Clippers and I say, I don't feel like that's around the corner for them. I don't think they're going to, they're not a team that will blow it up and say, hey, we need to get a young star to build around. They're not going to do that. They're going to keep muddling through mediocrity the way they are right now, with some stars that are old and at times okay. But I look at James Harden tonight and I say, he did not make the Clippers better. I know it's a back-to-back. He had a good night last night. 18 points, 5 of 22. Jonathan jumping in from the Clippers broadcast. Lots to say, always informative. Clippers took some bad shots trying to go for the home run from 3, where the Pistons went out and scored on our missed shots. 3, too many of those swings. Yeah, absolutely. That's fair. Yeah, you can't be as bad as the Clippers were tonight from beyond the arc, and the free throws were atrocious. The turnovers bad as well. So there was 17 turnovers and over 20 points scored on turnovers by the Pistons, who were bombing threes. 31%, felt like it was 61%. The way they were hitting those threes. They shot 46% from the floor, 36 of 78. Clippers 40%, 37 of 92. They were in this game for a good portion of this game. But this is what we talked about last time we were here doing the postcast in another loss. I think the Clippers have now dropped 3 in a row. They don't have an ability to land a haymaker and knock somebody out. The Pistons are quite remarkable compared to what they have been. And this is what happens with good organizations, and the Pistons have been good over the decades. They've won championships. They were good in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. And, it's not surprising that they figured it out, but it is surprising to go from what they were. Like, there's not a steady climb with them. They won 31 games over the last 2 seasons combined. They've now won 32 games this year and are in the 6th spot in the East. And let's not forget, the East has the 2 best teams in the league, I think. Well, the Cavs are the best record-wise. The Celtics are right on their heels with 41 wins. Cavs have 47. The Thunder have 46. So the Thunder are the 2nd best team in the league. And people are still not believing in the Thunder. That's a whole nother conversation. I heard Tim Legler on ESPN today talking about them being a team without a flaw. And I kind of agree. They just don't have a whole lot that you can point and say that's a problem, that's a liability. No, they don't do much wrong at all. They are the real deal. And you look at this Piston team, they're not the Thunder by any stretch, but they are a team that plays aggressively and ferociously on defense, suffocating defense at times in the fourth quarter when they needed it. As the Clippers were trying to make a run, the defense in the paint from the Pistons was physical and just something that I wish the Clippers could do. I know the Clippers are third in the league in defense. I sometimes scratch my head and go, is that accurate? I know it is. I don't know how they base that number. Is it opposition scoring, or I'm sure it's probably more complicated than that. But I look at the Clippers defense and I go, I don't know how they're ranked third on defense with the way the paint was open quite regularly tonight for the Pistons, slashing to the basket. They just, I think this kind of boils down to Zubats. And, he's not a liability by any stretch. He's a decent defender, but he's not a physical presence in the paint. And I don't know that he ever will be. And that was a problem tonight. When you look at what the Pistons were doing in the paint, physical all over the place. Jalen Duren getting easy baskets. Isaiah Stewart. Oh, he only had 3. Sorry. Who's the other guy that was? Tobias Harris had a fantastic game tonight. Former Clipper with 20 points, 38 minutes, 9 of 13. And Cade Cunningham led the way for all players tonight with 32 points, 9 of 22, 4 of 9. But they were pushing the Clippers around at the end of the game. Crunch time as the Clippers were trying to make a run. So lots of problems, an inability to put someone away or grab a lead, hold it, and pull away and win. It just feels like the Clippers are always just trying to survive. And tonight they did not. Their losing streak extended to 3 in a row, 106-97, falling to the Pistons in Detroit. I'm Pete Fox. It's the Locked On Clippers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. Well, tonight's episode of the Locked On Clippers postcast brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's pretty simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during this season, 24-25 regular season, not postseason, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon till midnight. You have a late night craving, but you don't feel like cooking. You don't feel like going out to the drive-through. That's when you pick up your phone and use DoorDash. And if somebody scored 50 like Cade Cunningham, didn't score 50 tonight, but close. Had a nice game. 32 tonight, 38 last night. What about can you put 2 nights together for 50 plus? Probably not. But if somebody puts up 50, you get 50% off DoorDash. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off, which is huge. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Well, the Clippers did not post tonight on the second night of a back-to-back, 106-97, snapping a 10-game winning streak against the Pistons. Jonathan goes on to say here, the Clippers' main issue is they lack offensive talent. Their defense held up tonight. Just their offense let them down. When guys aren't hitting shots, it puts more pressure on the defense. Without a doubt. Yeah, I totally agree. I have written down many times here on my notes that the defense was good. I thought the paint defense at times was pretty wide open. But again, I'm comparing it to the Pistons defense, which was phenomenal. And it's part of the reason that team has turned things around the way they have. The pace I thought tonight was okay for the Clippers at times, but the biggest issue for me, again, when James Harden is running the offense and Kawhi Leonard is out and Norm Powell is out and nobody else is making shots, Chris Dunn led the Clippers at the half with 11 points. Now that tells you how bad they were offensively tonight when Chris Dunn leads the way. They just couldn't get anything to fall. And what did James Harden do through all of that? What he always does: dribble across half court, stand there at the top of the key or at the wing, and chuck. He made, it's hard to say that he did that every single time, because he did make some good passes. And, you know, his stat line all in all wasn't terrible, but he was a big part of the reason they lost this game. I mean, he had a double-double, 12 rebounds, only 5 assists, though. I thought that number would have been higher. 7 turnovers to go with 18 points. Yeah, there were so many times. If you've got James Harden late in the clock with the ball in his hand, and by late in the clock, I'm talking like 6 seconds, he's going to put it down by his ankles, step to the right, chuck. And tonight it was chucking because he couldn't make anything. Ironically, as we get to the bucket list tonight, James Harden leads us off at number 5 because he hit his first shot. A step back 3 at the 10:04 mark of the first. It made it 5-3. I was like, all right, cool. Let's pick up where you left off last night. Let's get on a run and let's go. Nope. He missed the next 5, if not more. I stopped counting after he missed 5. I know that passing the ball more is not the panacea to winning, but I tell you what, when you don't have Kawhi in the game and you don't have Norm Powell in the game, I'll tell you what is a dead weight around your ankle is James Harden chucking bad looks over and over and over again. It doesn't help the offense find rhythm and flow. I know that can be a more exhausting style of basketball. It can tire you out and you can't do it every single, you can't run the weave like they do in high school every single time, but they can move the ball more than they do. The amount of times that James Harden loafs it over half court, stands at the top of the key, or penetrates to the rim amongst the trees and gets a bad shot or gets swatted, it's just too much. Yeah, he makes one floater here or there, and everyone's like, oh, wow, look at the floater. How many did he miss? 5 of 22 tonight. It's not even close to good enough. I don't know if he thinks that he's just going to like, wow, with all these other dudes out, I need to step up and take over. I need to be the man. And this is Jonathan, this is where I'm going to disagree with you. The Clippers don't have anyone else that can create their own shot outside of Harden when Kawhi sits. I understand that, but they didn't have Harden tonight either. Just because he can create his own shot doesn't mean he can make it. He would have been much better. This team would have benefited considerably more if Harden played the facilitator tonight at the point. Stop trying to create your own shot. Got plenty of other dudes on this team that can score. On a night like tonight, Pistons run it back-to-back as well. You know, Bogdan was obviously off. He started, by the way, along with Batum. Batum got going for a minute. If Harden starts feeding Batum, you never know. Derek Jones had another nice game. 6 of 11, 23 points for 23 minutes and 15 points. Amir Coffey, 3 of 8. Didn't get a lot of looks. Feed Amir Coffey. Get him going. Stop trying to be the hero all the time. You're an old man, James Harden. You are still capable. You're still an all-star, but you cannot do it every single night. Tonight would have been a perfect night for James Harden to facilitate, stand there and pass the ball. He made some great passes. One of them on the bucket list is number 1. We'll get there in a second. One of them looked like a shot, but he was feeding Derek Jones Jr. But he wasn't doing it early in the game. That was late in the game. He wasn't feeding Zubats the way that he does. He was just trying to score. I'm going to win this game single-handedly. Not going to happen. I mean, it happens occasionally, but it's not a high probability way of winning. Let's finish the bucket list. Number 4, Chris Dunn had a layup after a sweet steal. kicked it to Zoo. Zoo gave it right back to him, and he got the easy bucket there at the 8:04 mark of the second. It made it 31-26 Pistons. For number 3, Derek Jones had a dunk just straight to the rim at the 38-second mark, just penetrating aggressively. And again, I would have liked to have seen more of that, cutting, slashing, just hammering the basket. They weren't doing a ton of that tonight. James Harden was trying to, but it wasn't working because the Pistons defense was too tough. 49-46 at that point after the Jones dunk at the end of the first half. Clippers had the lead at that point, but again, they had a 5-0 run, did the Pistons, to make it 51-49 at the break. You got to figure out how to close out a quarter. You cannot give up runs in 3 of 4 quarters and expect to win games. And they're not like 7-2 runs or 8-5 runs. They were 10-0, 5-0, and 8-0. That's 23 points. Brutal. And for number 1, number 2, Batum had a 3, part of a pair of them pretty quick there in a row, 10-13 to the third, just a catch and shoot. And what was really sweet about it was he caught the ball above his head and just fired. That to me is skill. That's really tough to not be able to, or not have the time rather, to bring it down into your shooting range and then elevate it. He caught it above his head and fired. Boom. Good. So that was a sweet one right there. And for number 1, Harden, an alley-oop to Derek Jones Jr. at 3:45 of the third. It made it 72-69 Detroit. I think that was as close as the Clippers got. 106-97, the final. We'll talk about another issue. Believe it or not, there is another issue that I have not gotten to. Thank you, Jonathan, for reminding me about that other thing that was not going well for the Clippers tonight. Some of it was their problem. Some of it had to do with the refs. We'll talk about that next. It's the Locked On Clippers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. And of course, we appreciate you allowing us to be your source for your team every day. Tonight's episode of the Locked On Clippers postcast also brought to you by FanDuel. When the game ticks off, NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in and on the action than with FanDuel. Of course, they are America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you could stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. Live bets are a lot of fun. I really enjoy them. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game more exciting, and it keeps your mind working in the middle of the game. Like, what do I think is going to happen with regard to this? Are the Clippers going to continue to turn the ball over, or are they going to get hot? Is Bogdanovich they might have an over-under on one player, and you think, is that guy going to get hot, or is he going to continue to stay cold the way the Clippers did tonight? And you can get in on the action right in the middle of the game. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet $150 in bonus bets, win $150 in bonus bets if you hit your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Clippers fall tonight in a rather ugly game. They were close for a good portion of this game. But then just kind of the air came out of the balloon. It was 51-49 at the half. They had a nice third quarter. I shouldn't say that. Sorry, the third quarter is when it all went to hell. That's right. Started off nice though. The beginning of the third quarter was okay. Harden kept firing early and not making shots. Zoo started making some passes. I'm like, what does that say about the Clippers when Zubats is making passes to Derek Jones Jr.? 5 assists for Zubats. The Harden ISO look was not good. It was killing the momentum tonight. So choppy was another way that this game felt to me. It was just bad looks, rushed, hurried, no rhythm, no momentum, no moving the ball. It wasn't quite as bad as it was a couple of games ago where it was getting stuck all over the place. Tonight, it was just like, it didn't even get that far down the line to get stuck. It was just like James Harden had the ball and he's shooting. I'm shooting. That's what we're doing. And it's probably not going to go in, and then it'll be a run out basket for the Pistons. But the Pistons D in the paint was suffocating and tough. They kept chipping away, though. In the fourth, they got a 10-2 run. But as Jonathan points out here, Clippers couldn't stop fouling and sending the Pistons to the line. 36 free throw attempts for the Pistons tonight. Some of that to me felt like just working against the Clippers, ticky-tack calls, et cetera, et cetera. The Clippers got to the line not nearly as much, 19 times. I mean, that is a huge parity and discrepancy in the free throw attempts. 19-36. I don't know that the Clippers would have been better off had they gotten to the line more, because they were 63%. They couldn't make them at all. It was brutal. And Bogdan just was dead weight tonight. Not good. The second night of a back-to-back when you don't have your full complement of stars, it's tough for these guys. You know, it's not like it was a long journey. Indiana to Detroit's not that big of a deal, but this team can't seem to find any rhythm. They don't have any swag. What they are, they feel a lot like the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin team at times, where it's like, yeah, that was a fun little stretch. That was an exciting play, but they couldn't keep it rolling. And on the contrary, when they did get on a run, a 7-0 run in the first turned into a 10-0 Pistons run right at the end of the first. Anytime they got on a run, they would just turn right around, and it happens so fast. It happens in the blink of an eye. So I don't know what the answer to that is, other than Ty Lue is not holding them accountable enough. He needs to get in there and bust some A in practice. I don't get the feeling that Ty Lue is that guy. He's too nice a dude. To me, I feel like Ty Lue's a pretty good coach. He's obviously got a championship. Some might think that's a slight to say he's pretty good. But something's missing. Something is not there for this team. Maybe it's the consistency of their rotations. Maybe it's the consistency of their starting lineup. I don't know. The defense is good most of the time. Again, it's ranked third in the league, right? They have bought in on defense. And when the defense is working and the offense is even okay, they roll together really well, because the Clippers are very adept at turning defensive turnovers into offense. Chris Dunn tonight, another great game with regard to playing defense. He was playing tough defense all night. Without Chris Dunn, this game would have been a 20-point loss. He had 13 points. Again, 11 of those came in the first half. 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and again, 5 steals. So he's playing his ass off. I think it's funny. I said A about 2 minutes ago, and now I just dropped an ass. But the Clippers really need to find some swagger, some momentum, some energy, some want to, some aggressive behavior. They don't have any of that right now. They are just floundering around. Again, they have spurts, but it's not enough. Spurts don't win you basketball games against good teams. You can figure out a way and stumble to the finish line and beat an average team or a below average team like the Pistons. I'm sorry, like the Jazz in overtime. But that's not going to win you games against good teams. There has to be more momentum, there more rhythm, more confidence, more swagger, more in-your-face aggression. That's the thing that I feel like the Clippers do not have. And they need to have somebody more consistent play from their stars. You can't have all these guys out with these nagging little injuries. Maybe they're legit. I don't know. I hate to not be a believer in what's happening, but it just, Jonathan's right over here saying that the Clippers don't have another guy that can score when it's just James Harden. when Norm Powell and Kawhi are both out and Ben Simmons and Bogdan can't hit the broadside of a barn. Yeah, Harden pretty much has no other option. I get it. He's an all-star. He wants the ball. He's going to take the shots. But my critique is, if I'm James Harden, I would say, let's try. I'm not making shots tonight. Let's try something different. This is not working. I looked at this and I was like, do they think this is working? Did they feel like what was happening tonight was going in their direction? Like, hey, we can mess around and pull this one out? I don't know. Maybe they did. They've had history against the Pistons recently. Brian C. McCabe bringing it up. They showed highlights. They've had history against the Pistons of having late game comebacks. So maybe they thought, hey, we could just fart around for 3 quarters. And then, if we're in the game, we will, make a comeback. It was a 10-point ball game at the end of the third. But again, that was only because of an 8-0 run right at the end in the last minute and a half of the game. So final thought here from Jonathan. Jonathan and I did the show tonight as a team, my co-host over here. Effort was lacking tonight. I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong one. Effort was lacking tonight. Jonathan, well said, but that wasn't the only thing that was lacking. Everything was lacking tonight. I thought it was all bad. Effort was lacking. Turnovers were lacking. Scoring was lacking. Free throw percentage was garbage. This was a turn the page game. Put it in the past and move on. Today is Monday, the 24th. Clippers off tomorrow. They are back in action on Wednesday in Chicago at United Center against the Bulls. They will tip that at 5 and try to snap this 3-game losing streak. It's the Locked On Clippers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching. And of course, we appreciate the comments. Thank you for letting us be your source for your team every day. Have a good night. We will talk on Wednesday.